Welcome to whatever this is, Flesh and Blood podcast of wild tangents and deep conversations. That is actually the name of it now. And today is a very special guest. I mean, every guest is special, but today we have a very high-profile person.
Please, come on.
Well, you are, whether you want to admit it or not, but very gracious with his time in terms of engaging with the community. That's actually something that I find very interesting about you, and why we're even having this conversation, because you have so much time to engage with the community. Saint Hung.
Hey, thanks for having me on whatever this is. I appreciate the opportunity.
It works. The name works so well. I'm so
Yes.
pleased with it. It finally came together today.
Yeah, we've got a genius marketer on our hands here.
I wouldn't say that, but if someone would pay me for it, that's
Yeah.
something different. But yeah, like one of like you a collector in such a big way of the game. You've been such a vocal supporter of the game, and it's just great for, like, I make content on a lot of different things, like health related things, card related things, which I'm not card related things, but the game related things. And I'm just at the casual level. But of course, I started this channel as a collector. The sealed case, that's the whole thing about.
That's your thing. Sealed cases. Yeah.
Yeah, sealed things. Trying not to open boxes and booster packs and all that. That's my thing. And it's just great to have someone on who's. I mean, looking behind you, it's like you obviously have a lot of stuff that you've that you've opened, but you
Yep.
also keep sealed things. Um,
Yes,
so
indeed.
I think I wanna start with how how has collecting kind of progressed through your life. And uh, I remember you talking about, it was kind of like humble beginnings, you trading into dual lands, trading up, trading up, trading up. And like, can you take me through like how things have progressed through the years?
Well, let me just first say that collecting has been in my life throughout nearly all of it. And even before I collected my first item, my father was a coin collector and a stamp collector, and he had showed me his collections, and I was like, wow, one day I wish I could get into my own thing. And probably around the age of 5 or 6, could even have been as early as when I was 4. These cards came out called Garbage Pail Kids. So I'd collected Garbage Pail Kids. I'd collected in the mid 80s Topps baseball cards, because those were really cool. Now they're worth literally nothing. They're worth less than, I would have paid for them back in the 80s. Then there were the Marvel cards, which I hear are coming back again. Then there's a period of time where I was collecting the Bandai OG Dragon Ball Z cards before they were like 91, 92, like the Japanese Dragon Ball Z cards. And then it was Magic the Gathering. And by then, I had already assessed or had so much experience with valuations. Like, I'd look at a card and I'd be like, you know what? This card is going to be meaningful long term. This card, nah, not so much. This card, that's where it's at. And you mentioned dual lands. That's kind of why, when in the period of time where there were Shivan Dragons, where Shivan Dragon from MTG Revised was $20 and Underground Sea was $5, I would be always on the side of collecting the Underground Seas and trading away the Shivan Dragons, or sometimes trading 2 Royal Assassins for 1 Shivan Dragon for, you know, 2 tropical islands, 1 Taiga, and 1 volcanic island, something like that. So that's how it came. And it just I had to adult for a good period of time, close to 20 years between my high school and early college days, and back again, in the late teens, 2017, 2018. But I came back to a different game, Magic the Gathering. I complain about it all the time on my content, on podcast content, on Rudy's content. I will today, because of this, I want to nip that in the bud and stop complaining about it so much. So I found a better game. I found an alternative in Flesh and Blood. And I too started by collecting the sealed product, but also enjoying it, enjoying every single part of it, from the sealed product, breaking down to individual boxes, to the composition of every single box, whether it was Welcome to Wraith Alpha, Arcane Rising First, or Crucible First, and even moving all the way down to imprint sets. And I mean, the progression is all documented there in over 300 videos on my main channel, Fabled Hunters. And it's been such a journey. It's gone well past just sealed cases, which I called solid assets, because they're like TCG mutual funds, right? Or index funds of TCGs. Then it goes to the liquid assets, kind of like the individual stocks, kind of like right now, Premeditate is it was really high, now it's a little lower because Azalea is not as good. Codex of Frailty was already high, but then it just went even crazier, right? But then there was the demand concern with, what was it? Surgical Extraction from, was it Dynasty, right? And now Surgical Extraction is in print again. All this crazy stuff. So that's the liquid assets. And then finally, I coined the term gas in terms of expansionary assets that really go up in price during surges and basically are nearly inert and have no premiums during troughs, which is graded assets. So that's my theory behind collecting of solid liquid gas, which I think I've done 2 cycles of discussion. I consider them like classes on Fabled Hunters.
Mm. That's some interesting concepts. I haven't had. I didn't know that those were there. Definitely something I'm going to look into. From what you said, I have 2 questions already that I want to
Sure.
ask.
Let's go. Let's dig in.
The first question relates to when you said that you were growing up and you could see these cards already, and of course there's probably some trickle down from your father being a stamp collector and like coin collector, but tell me how you make that evaluation on, like, because you were young and you probably didn't know as much, you didn't have that much life experience to see like the long-term growth or life cycle of an asset. Well, how did you start to understand, to make that evaluation of, so Shivan Dragon, super playable, big stompy card, and dual lands, it's just a land, But
Yep.
how did you start to learn to make that evaluation?
Well, the reason why I mentioned, for example, Garbage Pail Kids cards in the mid 80s is that I would say the most iconic Garbage Pail Kid card and the most recognized was this guy named Adam Bomb, like ADAM Bomb, but his head blew up. And that was basically the franchise, the logo, or the main character of Garbage Pail Kids. And I would look at these Garbage Pail Kids. It literally looks like these are hobo little babies, hobo children, or homeless children with different types of defects, different type of genetic disorders. And I would be like, which one looks the weirdest? And what do my other classmates want to gravitate towards? Oh, look, everybody wants an atom bomb. But look, there's a tier 2 and tier 3 demand of these cards. So if I trade, let's just say, I mean, when in 1985, it was okay to talk about boys and girls. So I'm going to, pardon the cancel culture crowd, because there were boys and girls, and, there were 2 genders in 1985 back in my day, but like the girl cards, because mostly girls were playing with Barbies and whatnot, and boys in 1985 were playing with, G.I. Joes, but sometimes the card collecting quirky boys were playing with Garbage Pail Kids cards. So I would, for example, unless there was like 1 or 2 maybe pretty girls in the Garbage Pail Kids, they looked kind of proper, but then there were like, a girl with like doo-doo and flies flying around her, and I'd be like, this is a not desirable card because girls are ew. So I'm going to trade these girl cards away for tier 3 or tier 2 guy cards, and then trade for as many atom bombs as possible. And then if I have enough atom bombs, then the real pimp asset when you're 5 years old was like a ring pop. I was like, whoa, I could trade Garbage Pail Kids for a ring pop or two Garbage Pail Kids, and I'd get like a good humor, ice cream sandwich. Or if I had like four Garbage Pail Kids, you know what? This guy, he gets a lot more allowance from mom and dad than I do. And this guy, four Garbage Pail Kids, I could get a king cone, which is like a big. I don't know if you have king cones.
No, we don't. We don't.
That's like a super ice cream cone. The cone, the ice cream, chocolate fudge, hazelnuts and walnuts. So it was a treat to somebody 5 or hell 55. I think you would enjoy it. But that's where the beginnings of the valuations happened. And shortly after that, it was viewing the stats, like looking up Sports Illustrated and reading sports magazines, because ESPN wasn't a thing as far as I remembered when I was like 7 or 8 years old, or I wasn't allowed to watch, adult TV. So, library, Sports Illustrated, who's doing well. Was it like Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, Darryl Strawberry? Those names of baseball players that at least I remember from the 80s and 90s. And I was like, wait a minute. So these great or good baseball players, their performance is correlated to the price of the card assets, because baseball cards in the 80s and 90s were actually worth something, because there was a little bit of hype, because the card market was just kind of booming, and it was like that was truly the first, like the alpha edition of TCGs being printed to oblivion. I plan on making a complete Fabled Hunters episode about that. And this was before foil baseball cards. This was before stamped and numbered baseball cards. And as you can see, 40 years later, or 35 years later, now we've got this hype. It's just history repeating itself. The same griffs that Topps and Fleer and Flair and Upper Deck are running. They're running in Hasbro WotC. That's what they're doing. They're exploiting the consumer base of 2022.
You said no WotC bashing at the start of the episode.
Sorry. You're right. But I'm just saying I can see. Let's think about it macroeconomically and using history to learn about trends, right? That's, if there's one thing about getting older, I mean, there's so much downside. Like everything fucking hurts. Your back gives out, right? You wake up miserable. If there's one thing, it's that you have wisdom and you can learn from experience, and that gives you a significant advantage over the people that haven't walked through your shoes and haven't been there and lived that, been there, done that. And I always advocate that if you're paying close attention and you think critically, all the answers that you're looking for are either there, or you can dig a little bit, or at worst use Google and find the answers you're looking for, right?
My comment to that is that one of the things that I found the hardest through my life is trusting myself enough to know that what I think is the right thing, even though I think it's the right thing. I remember years and years and years ago, because I was playing a lot of computer games, that I've always been interested in technology, and when so this is going to be a little departure from cards.
But you don't have to give me a disclaimer about tangents.
No.
We're both good at tangents. I watch your content, man.
But I was like, when NVIDIA launched the advent of parallel processing with their graphics cards, I was like, holy crap, this is like supercomputers in your home. Like, this is going to be huge. And my dad, he was into stocks, and I said, hey dad, NVIDIA stock, it's like, I can't remember, it's like $5-10. Like, we should buy some of this because I think this is going to be huge. And he said, no, son. Like, they make graphics cards. That's never going to be anything. And like,
computer chips? What do we need those for?
Yeah,
We've got typewriters and we got pens and paper.
And I'm like, okay, I mean, you're the adult, I guess I'd better trust that. And I've just seen through the years that the older I've gotten, the more I've learned to kind of trust these sometimes younger people will see things that the older people can't see, and of course sometimes the older people will see the patterns and have like different evaluations of that stuff. But it's like it took me a long time to learn to trust those instincts. And then of course when I kind of not got free from my dad, but it's kind of like learned to trust my own intuition. It's like, okay, let me buy some of these chip stocks like TSMC and AMD and Nvidia, and it was like they're all up like 50, 100, almost 200%. It's like, okay,
you're doing well.
Like,
that's good. And
there's something good about that.
Let me chime in, because you mentioned trusting your gut, but also trusting the gut of people younger than you. That I actually covered that topic in a piece of content I just filmed earlier, but specifically to hone in on that point, the way I got into Flesh and Blood was not that I personally discovered Flesh and Blood. It was that some of my colleagues who I brought in to the TCG ecosystem, that I introduced and helped curate collections for in Magic the Gathering, they were getting deep in Magic the Gathering, but then they were doing this other thing, like a little side hustle called Flesh and Blood in probably Q3. Yeah, definitely Q3, summer of 2020. And my first instinct was just like your father. Oh, well, it's just a flash in the pan, whatever. I don't need to. Why do I'm Saint. I'm admin of multiple Magic the Gathering groups, and I've done this and I've done that, and I've got such a great collection. I don't need any diversification. This is just a hobby. And then I hear from 2, 3, 5 people. Then one day, like, Rudy's got a video in the background, and I'm like, wait a minute. I can't, I'm older now. I can't be dismissive, right? I can't be closed-minded, because what you said about how you interacted with your dad, I told my father about things like Goldman Sachs stock, things like Apple stock when I was relatively young. Like, look, this is in every school. The Apple computers, the Apple IIe, the Mac 1s, the original Macintosh. The schools are all using it. There's going to be a future here. And he's like, oh, what do you know, son? My company, my business uses personal computers, IBM. That's the way to go, And I mean, I don't know what IBM's doing right now, but they're not doing as well as Apple.
Definitely not.
Yeah. But that said, I was like, whoa, I'm seeing a lot of my father in myself. Let me actually take the time to learn about this game. Let me see the cards. Okay, the cards are pretty. Let me look at the cold foil technology. Wow, the cold foils look better than, at the time, it was like the Modern Horizons or Double Masters box toppers. And I was like, wait a minute, Double Masters box toppers, shitty technology, some of them printed in the US, roller lines all over the place. It's 2020. Get your act together. No, I'm not even gonna.
I was just about to say it. Like, you're doing it again.
Yes. But hey, I'm not proactively bashing. I'm just saying, hey, but look, these cards are printed from Cartamundi, the same printer of 93 to call it 2001 Magic the Gathering. And it's like, look, this is real. This is a real product. Look at the workmanship. Let me just play a game. Played a game. Let me buy, what were alpha boxes when I first started? $550 alpha boxes. And it's like, oh, it's got the name Alpha. It's the first product. $550. Is it that expensive? Yes, if it goes to zero, it's that expensive. But then, bought 5, 8, 10. It became 100 loose boxes, or 150 loose boxes at one point. And I enjoyed every single opening experience, every single last experience I had a great time with. And that's when the big channel fireball, the buyout happened. A lot of people called it a lot of different things. The elusive New York investor. I didn't refer to myself as the elusive New York investor. I'm just Saint. I'm just like, this is just normal me going about my day consuming a TCG product that I enjoy. This is my normal path of consumption. This is my normal budget. This is my normal, discretionary position on if I take an interest in something. And there it is. Like, just like we were talking about, hopefully you never repeat it to a soul and doesn't get blasted on Discord. I've got an ambitious project that is probably overall going to cost multiple times more than my first splash, the buyout that everybody was talking about that triggered that initial early 2021 boom in Flesh and Blood sealed product. So since then, I'm still taking positions and being aggressive. So sorry, there was a tangent. I had referred to this. This is how I got into Flesh and Blood, and it is because I listened to people younger than me, people that presumably have less experience in the space and less years, under their belt than I did at the time. And I said, hey, let me look into it. But what I did was I took a U-turn. I listened to people with less experience than I did. Then I personally applied my own frame of reference with a clear, open mind. Blank piece of paper. This is a TCG. Have I interacted with other collectible card games? Yes, I have. Garbage Pail Kids, baseball cards are collectible cards, right? Dragon Ball cards, Japanese stickers, there was a thing. Disney cards, Lion King, Little Mermaid cards, everything. I've done everything. And that Marvel cards, right? So that gave me that much experience to say, in a vacuum, is Flesh and Blood a beautiful product? Yes, it checks that box, right? Is it elegantly made? Yes, it checks that box. Is there playability? I played my first game and I immediately intuitively knew, whoa, at least 20% of unnecessary variance for Mana Flood and Mana Screw just got eliminated. Wow, this is the most elegant resource system I have seen in my life. And I lived a lot longer than the stupid cunts commenting on the bottom of plenty of YouTube
Language,
videos.
sir. Language.
Oh, apologies. Hey, you're European, right? I thought we could just go.
And prejudice. What assumptions you make? Oh, saints. We will have words, sir.
Language.
It's all good. No, but I think you're right in knowing when to acknowledge the fact that people younger than you have they're
onto something. They have something.
They have the finger of the pulse of the culture, of the up and coming culture, and the ability to recognize that is how someone older can allow themselves to tap into an upcoming trend, because it is kind of like you do get set in your ways, and it's we can get into actually what happens health wise with our whole neurology and how it kind of stiffens up and stuff. There's less plasticity in the brain as we get older, so we are actually biologically less predisposition to like new things or adapt to new things.
Yes.
So
I literally had that same experience. You're absolutely correct. I had a neurologist lecture me just about 2 or 3 months ago, telling me that now that I'm in my 40s, my brain activity is something like 3% to 5% less than it used to be. And the gray matter in your brain actually shrinks. And the more you try different things, and the more you leave yourself with an open mind, and the more you interact with people of a different age range or people that have different ideologies than you, the more your brain stays fresh and optimal.
Yep.
Right? So we're on the same page there. Yeah. I heard that from a neurologist, and you've got a health background or somewhat medical background yourself, right?
Not somewhat, sir. I'm a trained physical therapist, I'll have you know.
Okay. I don't know if that's considered medical in Europe. And is it medical adjacent? I don't know.
It is the ignorance of Americans.
I'm just a dumb, ignoramus American.
Let me come with some prejudice about Americans. No, it's like it's not the same as a doctor, but it's the same level as like a nurse or that kind of. So we're health professionals.
Health professionals, yes. Yeah. Wonderful.
You're
an entrepreneur too, which is very respectable.
Yes, It sustained me for over a decade since I finished my education. Sold my business, started some new businesses, failed some businesses. Now I'm kind of starting a new chapter and see where that leads me.
Speaking of business and selling businesses, you're a Dane, right?
Yep.
like Dane is Denmark?
Yes.
Yes. Are you aware of the company called the Card Collective?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
Are you close with Peter? Do you know of Peter
Uh,
Grandbeck?
I wouldn't say I'm close, but I've messaged with him multiple times because I've bought some cards off him.
Oh,
And he
he's a
hasn't,
bit of a hard ass, a little bit.
not a hard ass, but he's not very good at checking his card market account. So I've had to actually call the shop and say, hey, it's been like a week and I bought some cards off Peter and he hasn't sent them yet. Could you please send
Oh,
them?
okay.
But
We're old friends.
yeah,
We're old
okay.
friends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The reason why I bring it up is because the individual that I believe, I don't get into their business, but I heard that Peter took over the business completely. His predecessor, who I think Peter worked for, his name was Anders Jensen or Anders Feigen Jensen, I think.
Mm.
And Anders is also a Dane. Peter's a Dane. And Anders not only led the Card Collective, he was also the number one, and he was proud of it, the number one Magic the Gathering beta collector in the world. He had the top set of MTG beta on the planet, hands down. And he's also a health professional. And I believe he came across, his claim to fame was he created, they'll bitch me out if I said the wrong thing, but they created some sort of component for the pacemaker and
okay.
sold it to, I believe, private equity. And you do, high tech health like that, then your exit is very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I figured if you're a professional, I could back channel you back to Peter and or Anders, and that's how we do in the card community. If you can see a path to networking, then you don't know that sometimes this is how jobs are done. This is how contracts are originated. This is how mergers and acquisitions happen. So not
seedy backroom
the time.
deals, ladies and gentlemen.
Huh?
Seedy backroom deals, and under
Seedy.
under the table.
Not under the table. I'm not trying to make any commission. This is just referrals. This is actually the art of networking, which I believe is very, very important in all aspects of life.
It is. However, no, not however, but I'm currently on the island part, the big island part of Denmark, which is not geographically far away from Jylland and the mainland where the card collective is, but I'm at I spend my time with at an LGS called fabtcg, which is like a big one of the biggest franchises that sells all kinds of TCGs and live roleplay things and board games and comic books, and it has everything. And I helped them do some promotional work for their nationals tournament. But when you're saying you want to connect me to Anders and stuff, I think I might be getting out of the health related business and more into actually the marketing stuff. I'm applying for, actually I'm hoping I get it. I might be hired at a cryptocurrency exchange actually here, like the Nordics biggest one, but that is yet to go through.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm definitely
I'm on the shareholder side or on the investor side of about half a dozen of those, and I'm 0 for 6 or 7 right now. So I hope you luck. I hope you get paid well. Don't take stock, take bonuses, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, this is not financial advice, but we should go there. But I bought Coinbase stock at 68, looking pretty good with all the
new entrants,
all
BlackRock,
the ETFs, all using Coinbase as their surveillance partner for that. So yeah, that's something I get a lot into, like stocks and crypto. I find it very fascinating, and there's a lot of like go between, or like, what's it called, the middle ground
overlap,
crossover
sure.
between those two, which I find fascinating. And but let me get back to the tangent that I wanted to talk to you about, which is actually something more a little bit soft and a little bit this is really like family friendly. So you talked about your dad being a coin collector and a stamp collector, and I know you have children, and I've think I saw one video of you giving your daughter a card and
Yeah.
her doing. I can't remember what she did with it, but she wasn't particularly interested in it.
No, it
Uh,
was her first Welcome to Wraith Alpha pack with Dorinthia, which is my favorite art. I was like, "Do you want to keep the pack just to for the memories?" And she was like, "No," and she scrunched it up and threw it away. And it was kind of
get the
heartbreaking.
pack, get the pack. So I was curious as to. I spend a lot of time like my daughters. I have two, one 6 and one 4,
Mhm.
and I also keep a smaller collection of Pokemon cards.
Ah,
And
you and me both.
my eldest, she has just started to understand the concept of playing Pokemon cards.
Oh,
And we play each weekend, and I bought like a pre-constructed deck, and I had like this amazing, well, the amazing parenting moment of her saying at 6 years old, and we were playing, and I was putting damage counters on her Pokemon, and she was like, it would be, why are there no healing cards in this deck? Like, could we actually put some healing cards in this deck? And I was like, oh my god, my daughter has started to understand deck building. I'm such a proud dad. And I said, you can go in the pile and look for the healing cards. And I spelled out the HEAL. Just look for the cards that has this word on. And
yeah.
but that little anecdote aside, I was wondering if you spend any time with your children on trying to relay some of these concepts and trying to, because like Pokemon cards and just the whole collecting bit has such life, it's just a life skill, right? That you can kind of pass on. And
Okay.
some children are like they're onto it. For example, my eldest daughter, she has her Pokemon binder, and it's like she's very careful of it. Everything is
Yeah.
sleeved. She looks at it and she knows like to take care of it. My younger daughter of 4, she hasn't really gotten it yet. But
Okay.
I've been thinking like, so if she can hold on to that binder until she's 19 or like 18, wants to get a driver's license, she could sell some of the cards and have money enough for a driver's license. So
Yeah.
there's some real like life learnings attached to taking care of things, knowing the value of things, and like, is that something you spend time with your children trying to convey to them?
Well, I only have one daughter for now. We're working on more, and she's 6 years old, uh, 6.5 now, and she actually doesn't play Pokemon, but she collects Pokemon very aggressively. And not only does she collect it very aggressively, she's like, "Dad, when are we gonna grade these cards?" And we get into it. She's like, "I'm like, you can't grade that card. The Pokemon Company, their print quality in these recent 5 to 7 years has not been optimal. And although the surface of the card is great, and I show her the surface of the card, I'm like, look at this. Can't you tell this left right axis? I call it, I just refer to it as centering. Look, this part in the left, it's much thicker than the part on the right. So that's the first grade. And if you grade it bad, then it's going to be a waste of money. And then, she gets into the grading part. She's like, when are we going to open more? We're going to open until we could get a lot of tens. And I'm like, whoa, you're a little early for that. Let's just go a box at a time. And I'll show you what comes out of the box. We're not going to try to grade every single possible super secret GX, EX, VGX. They've got like different, some aftershock cards or whatever they're called. And I'm just like, okay, we're not going to grade every single super special card or even the secret foils until you have tens of all of them. That's definitely not happening. You can get maybe a box every quarter, right? Not even one a month, a box every quarter. We'll go and we'll make an educational thing out of it. She did well in school. She got high marks in her private school. and then we go to take her to Dave and Buster's. And rather than for me to, input what I would call like a cheat code, like pull out my credit card and, buy whatever, I tell her, look, you've got to earn tickets. You earn tickets. I'll earn tickets. How many tickets did you get today? A Pokemon box is 30,000 tickets. Well, you earn 1,000 tickets. That'll take care of the other 29,000. We'll spend an afternoon at the local arcade and we'll play predominantly skill-based games and earn the tickets to buy a Pokemon box. So I even make the process of acquisition some sort of, task requiring effort. And then she gets the box, whatever it is, Silver Tempest or Stars or whatever the heck they call the new sets these days. And fortunately, because so few people are able to advantage play or optimally play these skill games at these arcades, we've gotten some crazy old sets like some Sword and Shield, Burning Skies, Crimson Invasion, even in the past like 1 to 3 years. There's like sometimes some arcades have 6, 7, 8-year-old boxes that we can go, convert points for.
Playing
because
the angles, I like it.
Huh?
Just playing the angles, I love it. Oh
yeah, and getting sealed boxes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like that. I like the whole thing about. I know there's Dex and Draughts. Joey behind that is talking about making a content about parenting for the card people, which I find is really interesting. And the whole concept of, I think there's something so important in letting your children earn the privilege or the knowing that there's some kind of effort before you get to enjoy is a very, very powerful life lesson for them, and especially when they're that early. I think that's to me, and of course we're in our own little echo chamber, so we will be probably patting each other on the back for the entirety of this episode. But it's like, I think that's another thing that's it's really good parenting.
But what about the flip side? The non-parenting and telling your children the moment they're born that they're special and they came out and they're a gem on this planet and they didn't need to do anything to deserve that recognition and that coddling and that support. Then you've got 2 generations of fragile, brittle-willed, brittle-spirited individuals that can't take criticism and doesn't know what to do when the world punches them in the fucking mouth.
Well, because that's it's counterintuitive. It's very intuitive to do the most immediate thing that stops your kid from screaming. That seems like
that's lazy parenting. That's irresponsible parenting.
Yes, but you're trying to make your view is a long-term view. You say, okay, if I take this conflict now and I let my child be upset that they can't get the Pokemon box now, that is going to be a reward later on. And usually because kids, their memories are short and they'll be on to the next thing, the crying will stop probably, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It'll stop soon and they'll be on to something else. But in the short term, like, our brains are wired to react to kids crying very powerfully, and we just want it to stop. And a lot of parents will just do anything for the short-term goal or the short-term gain of just having it stop. Take the Pokemon box, right. Like, let me buy, like, when they get older, I'll buy you that car if you just stop making a temper tantrum, or like, sure, you can have the sugary sweets or the frosted flakes or whatever, It's all about short-term solutions, because that's how our brains are wired. Like, biologically, our brains and nervous systems have not been able to keep up with the evolution of culture, and that's why it takes a steady hand and like cool thinking to navigate parenting today. And but also like taking some of these new things, like you go to the arcade and teach your daughter that, okay, for a certain amount of effort you can get a certain result, which is
Yep.
like great, because that is what the grown-up world is like. Nobody
It
will
is.
give you a job just because you cry and whine about it, and like nobody will come and do your job for you if
Yeah.
you can't do it. And that's
You're
important
not
to
going to be
learn.
able to pay your rent complaining and saying,
No, no.
I want a roof over my head. That, I mean, well, I'm not going to go that far because these days it seems like, certain countries like my country, the government is leaning towards that direction. You whine enough, they're going to give you free subsidies and free money. I guess. I guess that's how it works, and it goes infinitely, and nobody needs to pick up the tab or take any responsibility. That seems to be the way things are going.
Well, we could briefly you are talking to a guy who comes from a democratic socialist country, and I know the
Okay.
socialist, just the word socialism is
Mm-hmm.
so frowned upon in the US. But it's like,
Oh no, it's not frowned upon.
oh,
They're
I
the
know a lot of
majority.
people who frown upon it and don't. When you hear someone like Bernie Sanders talk about what it's like in Denmark, you hear, oh, he's a borderline communist. You know what? It's better dead than red. You know, they all that rhetoric, which is hilarious, I think, because like even though like Denmark is definitely not perfect, and we have like we pay about 40 to 50% in taxes. But there are a lot of things like the people I know from the US, for example, when they have health problems, they're like, people are scared to call an ambulance because
Yeah.
they'll end up in medical debt. And like
Yeah.
here, it's,
$2,000 pickup fee just for the ambulance, and you don't need to sign anything. If they deploy the ambulance,
yeah,
I think it starts at $2,000 for driving you down the block, and you're in a hospital bed. It can be 2,000 to 10,000 a night,
yeah, yeah. And
and
all that
that's it.
here is free. Like
Yeah.
medical care and everything is free. And that's the good part of, people kind of pooling their money and paying taxes. So there is something good about. I don't even know how we got on this tangent now. I just want to say that there are some benefits to to working together and sometimes paying taxes.
There definitely are, but I think the point where my spider sense is tingling is that it's gotten to the point in America where if you make higher than a living wage, and if you take a meritocratic approach, like if you treat this as a meritocracy, work your hardest to get ahead, then you're doing something wrong. It
Yeah,
almost feels like it gets to the point where it's illegal to, make twice or three times what the average person makes if you work twice or three times harder. And to give you my background, I'm originally Taiwanese. I was born in Taipei, Taiwan, the capital city of the province, our country of Taiwan. And I
Taiwan is a
come,
country.
huh?
I said Taiwan is a country. I said it. I said it here first.
I agree with you. Oh, we're saying all these controversial things. And my bloodline comes from the merchant and political class of the Kuomintang that fled China when the communists took over. So I don't have a very good view of communism, and a lot of the current propaganda in Western society is becoming closer and closer and eerily, like scarily eerily close to the propaganda of China. I think I mentioned in Fabled Hunters 5 years ago, American media was making fun of Chinese implementing a social credit score. Yet you've got diversity, equity, inclusion. You've got corporate social governance and environmental social
Yeah,
governance and
ESG. Yeah.
corporate, yeah, ESG, DEI, all of that, yeah, corporate equity index, all of those things. And I'm like, if that's not a social credit score, what is this? Like 5 years ago, you're talking about it being a clown world if you know, because China's doing it, it's really horrible. But now you're doing it, and all of a sudden everybody's supposed to forget. And the craziest part is, I would say that it feels like over 95, maybe up to 99% of the general public aren't paying attention. I'm not saying they're too stupid to understand, but they're too self-absorbed to care, or dig in, or fight back, or elucidate others, or they're afraid. And when the good people, the intelligent people, the educated people, and the strong-willed people stop speaking out, that is when you have a whole society kind of reverse course. And eventually, with enough rot and atrophy, it could collapse.
Saint, I told you. We had an agreement before we started. The people are not ready to hear these things.
Okay.
No, but you make it's an interesting point if we draw like a parallel. It's a kind of like a microcosm of this. And now I'm going to bash WotC a bit. Hell, let's just do it. Because
go for it.
just like you said, that people's memories are short. Like a few months ago, people were like banding to the WotC is the devil. Look at what they did to Magic 30. You can't
Dungeons and Dragons right after that.
We'll never come back to this and like boycott WotC and it's like, ooh, Lord of the Rings. I gotta get me one of those rings, you know.
Oh, it's shiny.
Yeah.
It's 101. Let me spend all my money.
Yeah, and like, the people were spending money, and like, I don't know if it was real, or I saw like a Twitter post posted to me, where it's like, from WotC, it's like, but they were all deceived because another ring.
That's a troll post.
Oh, it is.
I saw a post this morning.
Okay.
It's a troll post. It's people. It's trying to piss people off and enrage people. If they really did that, then I think WotC would have a legitimate problem.
But I mean, it would. I was kind of like, this is another genius marketing, because it was that Sauron made another ring, and they do have that specialty collectors thing coming up. Yeah. And it's like, they are just lining their pockets. And like, from an investor standpoint, I've been eyeing Hasbro stocks, even though I don't like it, because next quarterly report, it will be off the charts. They will be the what's it called? The earnings call? No, it's the guidance. The guidance, like they will say, oh, we're making a lot of money and we have all this lined up, and the Doctor Who said, and investors will just go for it, to go back to the whole like people.
Can I sing some praises about WotC for a second, really quickly?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you watched the Basement Confessions series.
I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, with him and Open Boosters and Edwin the Magic Engineer. And I'm just the token Asian guy that supposedly doesn't know anything, because Rudy's average, viewer base is infinitely, exponentially, more intelligent and more educated than I am. What would I know about finance, right? What would I know about finance? And I made a call on, I think, the 4th episode, saying that WotC was out of line and their executives were just, going off the rails and taking the wrong direction, and that their stock price deserves to get punished, and would not be a reasonable or intelligent price. And I personally would not enter until the stock price dropped under $48. And within 3 weeks of that video releasing, do you remember Hasbro's stock price?
Yeah, I think it actually bottomed out at around that point.
45.8 was when it bottomed out as. And I started buying when it dropped under 48, because although
financial advice.
Promise, huh? No, I'm just saying what I did. This is not financial advice. What I did, if you had done it too, you're up right now. But I started buying at sub 48. Then I bought it all the way down to 46.8 no, I think 45.9 or 46 even. And then my dollar cost average ended up at 46.3 because I said, oh, it wouldn't be a good deal until it dropped under 48. Well, guess what? My heritage is Asian American. I love good deals. That's what they say about people in my culture. I said it, guys. I said it. I'm here perpetuating racial, ethnic stereotypes here.
Oh,
but it was a good deal.
Jesus.
So what did I do? I bought. And I mean, fundamentally, when the dividend rate is higher than the highest possible interest rate, and you see upside, right? Like dividends versus depositing in a bank. When the dividend is like 6% and you get 4.5% depositing in a long-term CD, you're going for the 6% plus the potential upside. And I have not bought a Hasbro product for well over 2 years, probably as long as I've been in Fab. But I have bought Hasbro stock because one of my missions was to basically show people a different way, show people a path, right? I can't be, or I'm not a shareholder of Legend Story Studios, but I do believe in their mission, and I wanted to spread that mission. And I'm probably not a good enough content creator to do more, and I can't hurt Hasbro or convert the player base of WotC. So if you can't beat them, join them. So I'm currently holding many thousands of shares of Hasbro stock, and it's like, if people are going to be idiots, please make me wealthier. Please continue to make me wealthier. I will sit on my ass while people, literally dump their entire paycheck after paycheck and go into debt, chasing after these fucking scratch-off tickets. They're still chasing after the tickets, and the grand prize is already gone, right? Like the Cadillac is gone. There's steak knives and there's go fuck yourself, and they're paying $400 a box for steak knives, like 1 out of 30 boxes, and the other 29 boxes they're being told to go fuck themselves, and they're gladly still. I'm not the genius move, WotC. Keep doing what you're doing, bag of cocks. Chris Cox, keep making me money. Keep and if you're retarded and you don't want to buy Dusk Till Dawn, keep giving Hasbro your money. That's my current message, because I'm not salty anymore. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very happy. Right? You can't beat them, join them. I can't change the ideology or the mindset or the perspective of the 29.x million supporters of Magic the Gathering that are still worldwide. I can profit off of trends that I believe will continue. That's not illegal, right? That's just hashtag capital.
The American dream. Live for excess. I myself own 23 Rolls Royces. Keep spending. No. We were just under an hour before things went off the rails.
We are?
And ladies and gentlemen, we are not done yet. Because what's behind door number 2?
No.
No. Are you crazy? Like, we're just getting started. Getting started, sir. Let me see here. What else do I... So, yes. I wanted to ask you. You're into rare things. And I showed you this before the start of the... before we started. It's a French Marvel Rhino. And when I got back into collecting merely for collecting before I got into playing, and I started to speculate about the foreign history pack boxes. And when I started speculating, I was thinking, like, there are 4 languages. There has to be some of these languages that are short printed because the markets are not equally big. And it turned out that the Italian boxes, there are only 6,000 of them, and 45,000 of them in total. And I've been scooping up loose boxes, loose boosters, loose cases as much as I can. I'm currently in the process of selling my house, and if there's any disposable income after selling the house, I think I will be moving into a bit of a larger position into this, because I think it's I don't know, there's something about the the scarcity of these boxes, the fact that there are Marvel heroes, the fact that there are legendary, no, not legendary, there are rainbow foil fables in there, and the fact that there are only 6,000 Italian boxes. Tell me your take on them. You said that you have the Marvel heroes. Are you excited about them as I am, or am I completely missing the mark here?
No, Jesper, let me just tell you that my content ideology is that I don't want to pump or shill or push any product that I'm not done with. And I'm definitely not done with any of the main sets. I'm not done accumulating, collecting, buying sealed, or raw, or graded of any of the main sets. The two items in the whole world of Flesh and Blood that I'm content with and can pretty confidently say that I don't need to accumulate more of, there's literally only two. One is the Rhinar versus Dorinthia. I always say Dorinthia because I like Dorinthia more, but the product name, Dorinthia, Rhinar's the A side. I keep saying it. Rhinar's the A side, Dorinthia's the B side. Dorinthia versus Rhinar. I only need 3, and I have my 3, so I could talk about that product. And the only other product that I'm fully content with is HP1 Black Label. I love the product. It's an amazing product. 45,000 complete print run is extremely scarce. It reminds me of Magic the Gathering 4 and Black bordered, also being extremely scarce. Now, I also think too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing, because there are roughly 250,000 to 275,000 printed copies of every dual land in revised of Magic the Gathering, of the white bordered revised edition. And that, in the past 3 decades, I would say, is the most liquid vintage asset or high-end asset in TCG history. However, 4 and Black bordered cards, although because they're black bordered and they're scarcer, they're higher in demand, the liquidity and the actual volume of demand is very, very thin. In the time that I was probably 5 to 6 complete years of being, I'm not going to call myself a power broker, but a very high volume dealer worldwide, helping me network with a lot of well-to-do individuals, which helped me out career-wise. But worldwide, I probably moved between 6,000 to 7,000 graded pieces of revised dual land. 6,000 to 7,000 graded and ungraded pieces altogether of revised dual lands. In that same time frame, I have moved less than 20 pieces of 4 and Black bordered dual lands. Now, let me add something on top of that. 4 and Black bordered dual lands, in my opinion, only became more desirable than white bordered dual lands about 10 years ago. And this game's been around for 30 years, right? There was a point where they were worth a little more because they were new in like the 95, 96. Then they were worth less because foreign, right? But then scarcity came out, print runs came out, the space became more sophisticated, and then the player base grew such that there was enough global player base to feed a market or create this pocket of demand for the FBB products. Now, Jesper, I'm not downing that product. That is a beautiful product. The Marvels are gorgeous. They're great. But the Marvels remind me of the dual lands, right? Because the Marvels, even more so than the Rainbow Foil, because the Rainbow Foil, just like I said about trends, the Rainbow Foil Fableds were higher than the unlimited versions of the Rainbow Foil Fableds. The FBBs were higher because it was the newest thing. Then the hype died down.
Yeah.
And now they're 20-ish% lower.
Yeah,
right?
Around
Maybe
that.
even a little more than 20-ish% lower.
Depend on which one you look at, but yeah, they're usually a bit lower.
Right? And I'm like, whoa, if this, if history has taught me anything, it's going to take at least 10 years for there to be a healthy enough collector base that will appreciate it enough and the volume of demand will be high enough that it'll push it over.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Every single, like chapter one of every single money manager's pitch in my lifetime, and I've been solicited by hundreds, thousands, and I worked for Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, and JP Morgan. So I was, money manager, and I've been solicited by money managers. But chapter one is diversification. So Jesper, if you are just fully entrenched into one niche, that's kind of like being, that's like you buying one crypto, not even like a crypto ETF, and just you're gambling, and it's just at a certain point it's just too much risk. You know what I mean? So I would strongly suggest that you consider getting some holdings from the main sets, 1 through 10, whatever you like, whatever it is.
I have that already.
You have alpha?
No, I have one box of Crucible of War first.
Okay.
But that's it.
Okay. Well, there are people trying to chase their first box of Arcane and or Alpha. And then after they chase their first box of Alpha, they're looking for the first case of Alpha. Because I'm pretty certain that there are 300 to 400 cases of sealed cases of WTR Alpha remaining in the world. And I may or may not know of a couple guys that have larger than a double-digit position of that asset, making it even more difficult to chase down by other people. And if you're talking about buying and selling a house and having extra money laying to the side, I mean, I think right now I was just looking yesterday. I think last night they had a box or a case of Alpha, a clean case of Alpha for like $18,000 US. If you're talking about excess, if you're talking about overage, if you're talking about, I don't know what houses cost in Denmark, but they don't cost $50,000 US, presumably. Even in a socialist country, they're probably much higher, and that's your personal business. But if there's excess, I would give it some thought, because this is a big life-changing amount of money, it sounds like, and you're still fortunate enough and blessed to have excess. When else would you have that window to accumulate something of that magnitude?
I think it's to me, I think you make a good point in terms of, and that's been the counter argument in my own thinking in terms of the whole thing about, well, it has to be scarce and desirable for it to be valuable, And when we talk about at the LGS, sometimes people will buy a black label pack, and then we'll open it, and then we'll kind of joke about it because, like, oh, it's in German, we can't read the rules, but it's still a reckless swing, and we make fun of the name because it sounds German, and we have some German players actually there as well.
Okay.
So I am aware about the whole diversification. My thinking has been to this point that it has been an underappreciated thing, and it's still scarce, and it's still underpriced, but there is the risk, just like you say, is that it might be rare, but if nobody wants it in a few years, it might not really be worth anything. So it's like it is. And of course, when I say that I want to buy X amount of these, because I already have a couple of cases, it's like this
of each. You have a couple cases of each from what I remember, right?
No, I have 2 cases of the Italian, and I have one loose box of each language, because I'm not too interested in the other ones, because I just want the short printed ones. But obviously, any sane man would not say, oh, I have X amount of euros in excess from the house, I'm just going to spend it all on this one product. Of course, some of most of the cash would go into a CD, some of the cash would go into an extra stock account, and whatever is left there would be left to. So I'm not YOLOing like all my life savings into.
Okay. That's fair. I didn't know what the metrics were, but even in a box, perhaps. And slow accumulation mode. And I mean, just give you an example. I want to let you know that sometimes when the situation is right, we in the community have the power to make dreams come true. I have a colleague who helps my wife and I sell some Magic cards, and he had loose boxes of Crucible of War, but he couldn't find anybody to get him a case. And at the time, cases were $4,000. He just happened to not have the disposable income. He was having a second child to have a case. I was just like, well, are the boxes legit? Are they sealed? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, just give me 4 loose boxes. I'll give you a sealed case. And there you go. And I literally did the same thing for one of Yanji's Patreons, who's been very supportive of me. He's like, you know, I've taken a lot of time. I got lucky. I got in early. I got individual boxes. And, well, I just really want a case. And nobody's going to trade me a case for 4 individual boxes because they're thinking something's up.
Yeah.
And they also want an arm and a leg on top of that. And honestly, I got in early, so just the premium, the differential between the case premium versus the loose boxes would cost more than it cost me to buy the boxes early on. I'll show you my receipts. And I was just like, you know what? I got you. Here you go. I need to open up alpha boxes for, you know, for Fabled Hunters content. I'll make a dream come true. Is this really going to your daughter as part of, you know, your retirement package as a gift to your daughter to pass on to your child? I've got a daughter too. I got a soft spot for, you know, parents and TCGs. Let me make it happen. So I'm not proactively offering. I only have so many cases.
No.
-1. But if you went across that process, who knows? You could find your way up. And just like you've got boxes of the individual languages and you have cases, right? They're all assets that can be accumulated and then consolidated into one larger unit of asset.
But you make a good point, and I always like to, I will say that my first reaction to when people try to not talk an idea down or talk me out of an idea, the instinctual reaction is that, oh, I thought I had such a good idea. But then when you think about it, it's actually, just like we talked about earlier, that it's healthy for you to have someone telling you the opposite. You know, sometimes it helps your critical thinking, right?
Healthy debate. I'm just bringing it up, but going and even going fully Italian, I have a lot of conversations with James and team. I've literally been on vacation with much of his team, and I'm going on vacation soon to visit his team in New Zealand for personal reasons. So I'm just saying I'm aware of their mindset. I don't think that it just happens to be a printer malfunction or coincidence that Italian is short printed. I think for that product, they definitely had the market data and they knew, you know, population wise and region wise, what the requirements were or what the necessity was. And they had a product and they said, this will presumably fulfill the demand for the product. And I would say the fact that the product has not tripled or quadrupled in price, the fact that it is still available a little over a year after, doesn't mean that it's not in demand. It just means that they printed enough to last a year plus. They probably printed enough even to last 2 years, or to last enough cycles so that the player base can grow and then natural attrition, natural consumption can occur. So how long would it really be, Jesper, before you see a healthy demand and a healthy return? But then furthermore, how long to actually liquidate after everybody perceives it to be at that, right? Because that's the thing about TCGs. Everybody thinks they make money when the price goes up. But have you ever actually gone through the process of selling a card and the fees and the headaches and the lowballs and the, you know, the jack-offs that you have to interact with, right? And there's a lot of unpleasant communications. And it's like, did I really just sacrifice this many brain cells? I'm so sorry. My time's just not, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm not going to sell flesh and blood to you. I haven't even thought about it, but I'm just hearing secondhand. Right. And even when I make purchases, I'm already frustrated, and I'm the one laying out the money, right? When the other, and remember, the customer is king. I'm the customer in this case, and I'm already frustrated. At least have at least a dozen frustrating conversations a week. But when it's flipped around, then just on one item, you might have a dozen frustrating conversations, you know?
I think that's a good thing. I get a lot of obviously I'm just your average guy, but a lot of people message me in terms of, hey, you know, should I get into this card, or I have this should I open this box and whatever. And obviously I always tell them, don't open the box. If you ask me, don't open the box. It's much easier to get rid of at some point if you don't open the box, because singles are just. But when talking about, I think a healthy thing to think about when investing in these assets is exactly what you say, that it is it's very hard to liquidate, and it's not something that you can just press a button like with a stock or put it into a crypto exchange and then liquidate it and you could get your money. It can sometimes be like, for example, if I wanted to sell all my Pokemon singles tomorrow, I would maybe be done in a month or two, because some of them would be desirable, some of them would not be desirable. If I try to sell them in one lump, I can only get like 40 or 50% of them. So it's like, I think it's a healthy mental exercise to think about that the gains you see on TCG Player or whatever, your collector app or whatever, these are just paper gains. It is a very healthy exercise to just think about that these things are not easy to liquidate. Just for example, just people say, oh, real estate is the best thing to get into. Like you've I can't remember how many books on investing and how to get rich I've read that said, oh, real estate, you know, buy real estate and then you rent it out and then you borrow some money, and the whole rich dad poor dad thing. Like
Kiyosaki is a classic, man. I wouldn't hate on Kiyosaki and his rat race thing,
I read the book, and I think it's interesting. He's become somewhat of a more mercurial character today than he was
these days.
But just
wait, real quick secondary point on Rich Dad Poor Dad. He did mention real estate, but even more meaningful within his first 2 or 3 books was that if you could generate passive recurring income, that is better than real estate. In some cases, if you have a real estate portfolio that's performing for you, you get that. But sometimes you can create a business like software as a service, right? SaaS models, right? Apps that can bring you that revenue. And it actually literally replaces real estate and becomes somewhat easier if you know the product and you know the business.
Yeah, for sure. But going back to the point of a house, like people will say for years that real estate is the place to be. But right now, like I've been trying to sell my house since November last year. And because of the macroeconomic situation, it's just not happening. And we're going to have to sell at a discount probably to get it going. Luckily, the gains have been pretty nice, so they'll still be not selling at a loss. But it's like you have to think about these things before you YOLO into and just put all your life savings into, because you.
And just to bring it back into cardboard, here you are talking about humankind's most desired asset, which is land, real estate, land, right? Land, a roof over your head. And it took you 7 months to find a conclusion. Between 7 to 8 months.
We're not done yet. We're actually not done yet. So it's
wow.
Still...
Okay, well, knocking on wood. The journey is already 7+ months. And now you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's the most desired asset, you know, that mankind holds. That's highest up there. I mean, you know, practically speaking, we're not talking yachts or private jets, just real estate. That's demanded by everybody. It's valuable to everybody. TCGs isn't even as sought out by people as real estate, stocks, cash, anything, not even coins. I would say TCGs has a smaller interested client base than coins, our target market than coins, less mainstream than coins. So who are you actually going to liquidate to?
Mm.
It would take longer, definitely longer than November to present, if you were literally trying to get out of your flesh and blood entire portfolio these past 7 months. So that's food for thought for the viewers, food for thought about yourself and your thoughts of going further YOLO into FPV.
Okay, let's do a quick contrarian thing.
Sure.
So is does that mean that TCGs are just a game of the greater fool? Is that what's keeping TCGs alive? Because it's only worth anything if we can sell it to the next guy, right?
Right and wrong. For some people, they approach this as the greater fool. During the big boom, during the, money printer go burr era, the COVID era, sure, a lot of people thought that. But the fact is that there needs to be a fundamental, infrastructure, a foundation of avid collectors, avid enthusiasts that don't care what the price is. They just want the asset. They love the asset. They see themselves in the asset, or they see some nostalgia in the asset, or they have a connection. They develop a relationship with the asset. And I don't mean that in any weird way. Just like, I don't know, I like Dorinthia, but do I have anything going on with, James White's grandmother? No, right? Because the character is based off his grandmother. But I love the art. I love that it's made by same artist as Snapcaster Mage. Crap. I can't. Lius Lasahido from Malaysia is the artist for the Young Dorinthia, Grown Up Dorinthia, and Welcome to Wraith, as well as Steelblade Supremacy, which is still up there and one of my favorite Dorinthia arts. And while I always appreciate that card, yes, did I pay $100 for it when the market price for a rainbow foil Steelblade Supremacy was $100? Yes. Did I buy 3 at $1,000 each 2 weeks ago on TCG Player? Also, yes. Right? I love that card. It doesn't matter whether it's $1 card or $100 card or $1,000 card. I would always, just by the fact that I exist, right? I'm already somebody that debunks your contrarian take. And if they did go down to a certain price, I wouldn't only own a single digit percentage of Welcome to Wraith. I'd be happy to own all of it, and that would be that.
And people will say, well, aren't you just being the even greater fool for buying it when it goes down? Just like the crypto bros buying the dip when the...
Well, I think they're different, man. I think they're different.
Are you just exit liquidity for the pump and dump scheme that is Flesh and Blood?
You could say that, but I'm not thinking of it from a liquidity perspective. My Hasbro stock, I'm thinking of it from a return on investment perspective and a liquidity perspective. But I would say that as long as I've got everything else in my life covered, whatever I spend in Flesh and Blood, I'm content never seeing a penny of it return. Like, I don't know who said it. It was either a very famous businesswoman or politician. They said that poor people think about what they're doing this weekend, and wealthy people think about what's going to happen 3 generations from now. And I'm very fortunate to identify with the latter. And my family, my wife, my daughter, even if I had a son or 3 or 2 more daughters, they're fine. I'm thinking about, the generations that come after that already, because I've made the right moves to take care of whatever's going on here, whatever's going on in my world, maybe in the next 50 years. And I'm trying to visualize what the Hung bloodline looks like in potentially 100 years if artificial intelligence doesn't kill us. And I'm also trying to punch my ticket onto the Musk penis rocket to take my ass to Mars. So yeah, to depart this place and hang out with the people that they were depicting in that movie Elysium. Yeah, I'll be Matt sidekick.
Okay. Let me ask you a few, like, because we're coming up on an hour and a half, and
Yeah, yeah,
just a few short takes on what are your. Have you seen that there's this Fab Fitness Challenge going on for the month of July? It's okay to say no
yeah.
if you
No,
haven't.
no,
Okay.
I didn't. No.
Okay, but there's one
Is
of
that your
the.
thing?
No,
Is that
no,
your thing?
I was. No, it's not my thing. It's a guy called Brennan from Arsenal Pass who's doing it. Um,
Good. I know Brandon. I consider him a friend.
he's doing the Fab Fitness Challenge for the month of July. And
Okay.
obviously, when I made my first health-related video, I made the foolish decision to post about it on Reddit. Got a
Yep.
lot of pushback.
Really? Why?
It's like this has no, this is no place in Flesh and Blood. I actually included the quote in today's video, which I thought was hilarious because
You could tell him to kiss your Danish ass.
because I've worked with esports and physical performance, and I know how much sleep, diet, and exercise and stuff affects your performance. So I wanted to kind of see if there was a space for it in Flesh and Blood. And some people were interested, some people were not interested. But I was just interested to hear what your thoughts on actually making it a thing in July.
I would love to help make it a thing. I am currently, I mean, I don't know if you've watched my catalog, but one of my most well received videos was me in a cultural landmark in Taiwan
Yeah, I saw.
talking about my health and talking about my own self actualization of what I need to do and having a pivot in the direction of my life, not just pursuing more business meetings, more mergers and acquisitions, more money, and saying, whoa, health is a resource. And if you neglect that resource and you give up your health, then you could literally have nothing. And it doesn't matter what I collect if I'm not around to enjoy it with my family.
That's very
And
true.
nag my grandchildren about why a Heart of Findal population 400 is super cool and why, the Fableds, while not as good as the Power 9, are scarce. Why? Because they're scarce and they're still playable and they're not banned and super broken. They're a little more realistic and they're meta for a more optimized card game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Uh,
but back to the fitness thing.
this
If there's any way I can help, let me know.
this
I'll go watch a
this
couple of videos.
that heart is more important than the heart of Findle. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I was just interesting if you had any thoughts on it, and it's just you could go on Twitter and just search for hashtag Fab Fitness Challenge, and you see Brendan's video, and
Okay.
he also did it last year.
Yeah.
I got into contact with him through Tales of Alex, and we've yet to kind of hash out the details of probably. I don't know if I'm going on their podcast or something, but it seems like me and Brendan have a lot in common, and I'd love to speak to him about it. But I'm just making content on this, and I just wanted to hear because I knew that you also had some health considerations. My only thought in the whole when I was watching that video is like, okay, like how much of this expensive meat is he eating that he's actually like feeling this bad, because that is a lot of like wagyu beef and expensive seafood to actually put you in a like to kind of deteriorate your health, right? So it's like
Yeah. Yeah. There's
this guy's
something.
going ham. Like,
There's such a thing as too nutritious, and sometimes when you're dealing with high profile clientele, you just want to elevate that experience to such an extent that they're like, wow, this is the benefit I get of knowing this person and doing business with this person. And I went overboard. And nowadays I eat salmon, I eat grilled chicken, I exercise a hell of a lot. I'm actually interviewing multiple personal trainers next week, and gonna get it all together. But ever since that, even 3 months before I made that video, I've already been running. I've lost net 43 pounds, which is
congrats.
something like 20 kilos within 6 months, and I'm sleeping better, and I'm just a different person. I shifted my priorities. So very fortunate. I'm glad to come up with some content. I'll hit up Brendan for sure. I saw
Yeah,
him at
for
the Pro
sure.
Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
great suggestion.
another, you heard it here first, health related content has a place in Flesh and Blood.
Yes, it does.
Which is your favorite of the new TCGs coming out? Lorcana, Sorcery, Cryptic is coming with a new expansion. Like, do you have anything that you're interested in? I made a pre-order for the beta of Sorcery.
None of the above. If there was one, it would be Sorcery, because I've got friends in it, and the founder of Sorcery is an old friend from Magic the Gathering. However, despite me wanting to support Eric, I'm very clear and my life is very delineated. If I'm not going to buy Magic, I'm not going to buy Magic. If I'm bought all in for Flesh and Blood, I'm all in for Flesh and Blood, because in the world of TCGs, my time I only have enough time for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Got to be ready, structured, you know.
How does your collection activities affect your relationship with people like LSS?
Well, there was a point in time where former members of Legend Story Studios were looking, some of them randomly here and there, because different people change jobs. They're looking for an exit. And I think I've been known to be a liquidity provider to those individuals in the worldwide community and in all tiers of Flesh and Blood, especially if you've got a story that makes sense and a story that resonates with me. It's no longer a matter of money, within reason. It's no longer a matter of money. It's just, you know what, my money will go to you instead of to the most evil organization in Fab's ecosystem, Channel Fireball, right?
Yeah.
There's a time where Channel Fireball's founder and, you know, majority shareholder was selling Alpha and Arcane and Crucible boxes. And it was like, I had the liquidity to buy out all of them and probably help this guy out of a bad spot. But I told him, I told other friends, they were like, why don't you have me as the proxy? I was like, okay, whatever price he wants, there's going to be an asshole tax. So unless he's willing to take 40% less than his bottom number and he can come crawling to me, then he's not getting my money. Otherwise, I'm happy to give close to 100% of ask. Sometimes, some situations, I literally just proactively, oh, what? You're a good human being and you're asking this for this card, and oh crap, you've got you're short, you know, on bills or rent or this and that, and you've done good for the community before. Here's 100% of all you're looking for your collection. Do I actually need the cards? Fuck no, I've got enough cards. I had enough cards last year, right?
Points to the stack, yeah.
Yeah, but let me support this person. Let me infuse some liquidity because this is meaningful to this person. But more importantly, it's meaningful to the rapport that I hold with that person. Is that a fair answer? I didn't want to come across as
no.
But it's a paradigm. It's a perspective thing, you know?
Rich motherfucker, flaunting your wealth.
Guilty as charged. Go fuck yourself.
How did you get into things with Rudy, Open Boosters, that whole Basement Confessions kind of? Have you guys just always known each other? I'm not familiar with, or is it just like kind of similar people? Yeah.
Some of Rudy's patrons overlapped with my Facebook content creator activity, and Rudy reached out for a phone call / interview, and I was like, Rudy, you got to keep a lid on it. Just give me like 2 weeks before you leak the interview. And he's like, he probably made a judgment call. We weren't really close at the time. He made a judgment call. He's like, well, I'm just going to tell some of my close patrons. And before I didn't know what that meant, right? And before you know it, it went out to many, many thousands of people, and the whole Flesh and Blood, the whole Flesh and Blood world just got turned around off of that episode, plus the the newsletter plus days later the episode. And I was like, well, since Rudy's going to do this, I'm just going to, now I have to come out in public because there's so many people writing bad things. The anti-capitalist people were like, oh, this motherfucker's probably just gonna hide with his boxes and he's just a rich fucking fuck that guy. And I was like, you know what, fuck you, double fuck all of you guys who want to assume how I live and what I do. I'm a living breathing human being. I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a player, I'm an enthusiast, and here's what I'm going to do to buck the trend of evil TCG investors. I'm going to write this story my way, and that's why I did Fabled Hunters. And some people like it, some people hate it. Plenty of people hate it. I would say more people hate it than people that like it. But the people that like it, it's been meaningful to me because they've added to my life. They've made my life, my human experience that much more robust. And the people that dislike me, I don't fucking know them, so they can go fuck themselves. Oh, and that's how I got to know Rudy. As I was doing Fabled Hunters, Rudy would randomly he's like, well, since I have your cell number from the interview, Saint, hey, I just saw this episode of Fabled Hunters. I really like this and this and this. Is this really the case? And around that time, I don't know if you were in the game, Flesh and Blood Winter, I called it Fab Winter in winter of 2021.
I wasn't in that.
But he had called me about Fab Winter, and he's like, oh, I like that concept. I'm going to adopt it. And he started using the term Fab Winter, and then the whole TCG greater community called it Fab Winter, the winter of 2021. But I made an episode called Fab Winter, and for example, Rudy watched it. He's like, oh, I'm just, sorting my piles, and I've got you in the background. You make some compelling points, Saint. Is this what you actually think about Flesh and Blood? And then before you know it, we were on constant phone calls, and then he invited me down for a couple of parties, and certain like-minded people that are ethical and care about relationships and respect one another and truly appreciate one another, they make time for other like-minded people. Similar to Jesper, look what we're doing right now, right? You're learning about me, I'm learning about you, right?
Being politically incorrect.
Huh?
Being politically incorrect.
Politically incorrect, yes. Speaking your truth, right? Saying what's actually on your mind.
Yeah.
God forbid in 2023. Is your take on, or your experience of the Flesh and Blood community just as overwhelmingly positive? This is a loaded question. Just as overwhelmingly positive as all the other people that I've spoken with? Because I'm like, me coming from, like, I transitioned from being very heavily into crypto, both as with mining and development and also investing, where there's a lot of negativity and a lot of shenanigans going on, and then getting into Flesh and Blood and just seeing this, all the people are just so nice and open and helpful. And I wanted, from someone who's engaged with TCGs for so long, if that's your experience as well. Have you found other communities that are just as welcoming and open? I will say welcoming, sure, but every single community, just like every single nationality, just like every single ethnicity, just like every single religion, every single political group alignment, they're assholes everywhere.
Yes.
I'm fortunate to say that as of my perspective right now, it's probably 90-10, where 90% of the community in Flesh and Blood is good faith, and 10%, they're here, they don't know why they're here, they want to belong, they're looking around, they're trying to get some quick, angle shoot here and there, get some quick money, or they're just here because they think they can be competitive or they can make a profit somehow. 90-10. However, what I found in the Magic community as I got deeper and deeper, as Magic became more and more evolved, is that it wasn't like 10% good faith Magic people, but at the time where I totally cut off proactive interaction with the Magic community, it dropped down to about 20% people that I could still resonate with and 80% chaff. people that I generally don't want to, you know, butt cracks, neck beards, selfish people, people that respect different lifestyles, people that don't proactively like me or what I believe in, and will try to tell me why I'm the devil. Because I was a content creator for Channel Fireball. Channel Fireball being a West Coast California based company, had a very liberal, U.S. drastic, extreme liberal, extreme left following, and I wasn't, very appreciated there, and I didn't appreciate their ideology. I'll listen to their ideology, but I'm not going to say, "Oh, you're right."
Hey
And these
man,
days,
you're the one
yeah,
with all the racial stereotypes, and I mean, come on, how could you be appreciated?
right, right. Talking about Asians, I'm keeping the yellow man down.
Okay. Oh, that's hilarious. um, I don't even know if this is going to be the last question. I think it
Hey,
is.
whatever you feel, man. I'm
I
just vibing,
no
just
no.
doing my
I
thing.
think it is. Why? I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to have to ask you. Why does Open Boosters have probably the worst camera setup that I have that I have ever seen in
Mm,
like he must look to me it's like you guys you have disposable income probably up the wazoo. Why is no one spending money on like even like Rudy has the new camera. I don't know what camera he bought, but he bought a good camera. Like
yeah,
and but every time I scroll past one of Open Booster's videos, like what what am I looking at? This grainy. What do you know? I want to know.
I
I'm
do.
so,
I
so
was there. I was at his house 2 weeks ago. I was literally in Orlando 2 weeks ago, and we were recording in his studio, and I saw the setups. It's not my place because I'm a guest in the gentleman's house, but my analysis is that they have nice microphones. They have multiple microphones, and they use multiple microphones in the past, but then they're reverbing off of one another. And then they have multiple cameras and multiple tripods and multiple setups and multiple lighting arrangements, like very high end studio lights. Sometimes I think less is more. And because they both have a tech heavy expertise, Open Boosters and his partner, Edwin the Magic Engineer, sometimes they just get too much. They just throw too many elements into it. Whereas I just use my iPhone and I call it a day. They've got like 17 things going on. And sometimes 17 things could be like three, like where you had three and that's already more than enough. Having 17 things in multiple angles and multiple directions and webcams and whatnot, and plugging into your computer and, buffering software and whatnot that's simultaneously running. It's just, it's a very elaborate setup. So your assumptions are actually the opposite. Sometimes when things are too technologically complicated, the output is not the optimal and desired result.
yeah, and that just I'm a whore for picture quality and stream quality. So I'm like, it's not that I'm now that I'm set up, but it's like every time I see. I also talk to some other creators because they ask me like, hey, what webcam are you using, and like what, and I try to help out because yeah, that's I like to help out with that part. But
Yeah.
it's like a piece of glass in my eye every time I roll past one of those videos. Like, ah, let me help you, please. Let me help you.
I hear you, man. But I'm the furthest from having expertise
Yeah,
on IT. So I don't even bring anything up. I'm just happy that pressing a couple buttons on the iPhone lets me make YouTube content. I'm just that's the extent of my knowledge.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but enough of my uh, personal quality whoring over other people's content. That's their business.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's their prerogative, right?
but I couldn't. I couldn't. I had to ask. Like,
You have to ask.
finally, I'm
That's
within
my
one
feedback.
handshake of asking the most pressing question of my day.
Okay.
Uh, um, I think um, I think that's it.
Okay, wonderful.
Uh,
Thanks for having me on. Is there anything just generally you think I can leave the viewers with or leave your audience with? Just
well, that
outside of your lightning round
before you
question?
take the words out of my mouth, sir, I was about to say that usually when I end the episodes, I say like, now is your chance if you wanna say anything, if you have words of wisdom, if you want to plug your own channel or whatever. Obviously, it's like the big fish, like saying something to the smaller fishes pond. So it's like I doubt that there's anyone in my audience who doesn't know what Fable Hunters is, but I like to just offer like if there's anything you want to say, now's the time. Try to keep it
Okay.
politically correct, though. We've had plenty of
We
your
failed
potty
in
potty
the
mouth,
first
potty mouth.
95% of the episode. But Jesper, thank you for having me on. I just wanted to say personally that I have reviewed your entire portfolio up until the past 4 days. So your health challenge, I saw it on the thumbnail, but I haven't gotten to watch it. I enjoy building relationships and expanding my network, just like uh, Peter Strandbeck and Anders Jensen from Denmark. They didn't know me from a hole in the wall, but we've done easily 6 figures of business. We've bounced opinions off of one another on 7 to 8 figures of TCG business. And there are some times where we've even talked about business outside of TCGs. That part I try to keep private from content because of confidentiality reasons and shareholder reasons and just privacy reasons. But that's really the silver bullet, or that magic bullet, in not just the flesh and blood community, but any community. And it's because that the flesh and blood community is so pure, so intentional, so unadulterated. There's no agenda. There's not a bunch of dealers trying to hoodwink you or screw you over. Although they're happening, they're creeping into our community. But thankfully, we've got I've got a solid team in some of the groups to identify those scam artists and those people that make fake profiles. We're keeping that 10% down to as close to 10%, or hopefully even lower than 10% as possible. But as long as the 90% of the community remains good faith and appreciative and respectful of one another, we don't all have to have the same mindset. We don't want flesh and blood to be an echo chamber, but we do want to keep things respectful. We do want to keep everything healthy. And even what you mentioned about Brendan Patrick, I'm going to reach out to him personally because of our conversation. Maybe I will further our contact because we just see each other. Hey, what's going on? Oh, you made a great cast. Oh, crap. Oh, this is different from the pro days, right? Wow, what a change. But you know what? You're still a pillar of the community, man. Hey, so are you. Give each other a pound, or, at the event. And that's just how it goes. But because of this health challenge, maybe I can do some content with him. Maybe I could do some health challenge content myself and see where that goes. And that's just on the content creator to content creator side. I've given people life advice. I've been solicited for fatherhood advice, for, relationship, husband, wife advice. Seriously, just solicited. And sometimes for all of the above, if I get to know somebody and I care, I just give unsolicited but respectful advice, all with good intentions. And that's really the value of this community. And honestly, if you are able to leverage the network and the connections you make in life, the potential money you can make from TCGs is absolutely fucking nothing. It is negligible. It is a rounding error compared to what you could do. Let me leave you with an example. I think in November, December, I made a video on Fabled Hunters about me and my mentor in finance and financial services, my mentor literally getting X'd. I forgot what it was. It was emotional. It was real to me. And he literally just got he got the hatchet, and his life changed, and he was relieved of a CEO position, a top level CEO of a bank, just destroyed by the evil corporate overlords who owned one of the top hedge funds on the planet. And I'm thinking this, the managing director is evil. He comes in one day just to audit my business, and I'm, literally about to shit my pants, like ringing. I'm like, oh shit! If he did that to that guy, what is he gonna do to me? I'm his downline. Before you know it, I would say in about 15 to 20 minutes, we cut past the BS. We found commonality, common threads, and I had him in my conference room, sat back, relaxed. He was sipping some tea, which our assistant brought him, and he was totally in his element, telling me about his daughter. And not only did he tell me about his daughter, he was talking about his daughter playing Pokemon cards and asking to get graded cards. And he was asking me if I knew about the grading world. And we talked about PSA, we talked about Beckett. I was like, hey, buddy, you know what? Currently, PSA is owned by another hecka billionaire who owns a hedge fund named Nat Turner. But Beckett is fully available. With your money and my know-how, who knows? Maybe you can stop, being an evil overlord over here in the financial services side. We could go, build a couple billions in wealth in the collectible side. He didn't say yes, but I had to take a shot. But that goes to show you what investing 20, 30 minutes in trying to know somebody, because this person, I thought he was evil. His actions made me think he was evil, but he was just a guy just like you, just like me. We're both dads. You have 2 daughters, I have 1. We're human. We care about, our next generation. We care about our own health. He was just the same. He was just doing his best, and you know what? It was just business. It was nothing personal, right? So it's really important, the connections that come across you, and Flesh and Blood, for me at least, is a great platform to meet genuine people and establish connections with them. And that's what it means to me. It might mean something different to somebody else, but whoever's out there, whoever's viewing, I hope you guys all just keep everything respectful and appreciate what we have, because this might not be forever. Me, the admins, the other pillars of the community, we can only keep the asshole ratio as close to 10% for as long as possible before there's critical mass, and then everything goes to shit, and who knows then, right?
Those are some wild and wise words. And I think that will be our last wild tangent and deep conversation for this episode. Saint, thank you very much for reaching out. I was about to go on another tangent, but we need to end it now.
We do.
We'll go on
There's
another
next time, Jesper. There could be a next time.
Yeah.
If you get canceled and I don't get canceled, then who knows? We might have more stuff we could talk about next time, right?
Yeah. But for the people who tuned in, I hope that this was enjoyable. I hope the people who got offended leave and don't come back. And I hope the people that didn't enjoyed the very humorous episode that this was. I definitely had a blast. You can even see my face going red and the forehead vein here coming out multiple times. So I think that's proof in the pudding that we had a great time. So as per usual, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.